August the 18th, 2020. Guys, you're looking at the 5-day graphical tropical weather outlook from the National Hurricane Center down in Miami. And both storms are strengthening. Depression number one, or disturbance number one, has a 70% chance of development, and disturbance number two now has a 90% chance of development. Number one is now into the Caribbean, into Hurricane Alley. And they're saying a tropical wave over the eastern Caribbean Sea continues to produce an area of disorganized thunderstorms and gusty winds. This wave is moving quickly westward at about 20 miles per hour, and the significant development is unlikely while it moves across the eastern and central Caribbean. During the next day or two after that time, however, the wave is forecast to slow down, and a tropical depression will likely form late this week or the weekend when it reaches the northwestern Caribbean Sea. And we'll look at the satellite images, and you can tell it's a pretty fast clip. And there's some headwinds here, guys, some upper-level wind shear that's going to be dying down. So as it slows down, it will give itself time to gather strength. Now, behind it, this one, both we're going to have to watch. It's a 90% chance of formation. An area of low pressure located about 1,300 miles east of the Lesser Antilles is producing a concentrated area of showers and thunderstorms. Environmental conditions are conducive for development, and a tropical depression is expected to form within the next couple of days while the system moves west-northwestward at 15 to 20 miles per hour across the central and western portions of the tropical Atlantic. Interests in the Lesser Antilles should monitor the progress of this storm. Again, 90% chance of development. Guys, we're into that part of the year. Now, let's look first at the Caribbean satellite, guys. Right here, you can see where the storm has crossed the Windward Islands, is now legally into the Caribbean. Here's Florida up in your top left corner. Again, notice how fast it's moving and what's happening. It's kind of outracing the thunderstorms. It's pushing itself forward so fast that it's having a hard time developing. And notice here in the left of your screen, you have an upper level wind shear that's pushing this way, north. And that's supposed to die down by the time it reaches this area. That will definitely stop taking the top off the storms and increase the chance of further development. But you can, if you look at it very closely, you can see it's trying to wrap around at the surface levels. This thing is not to be played with. We're going to look at some of the models. Let's look into the wide Atlantic before we do that. Now, what we're seeing behind the disturbance number one is number two. And like we said last night, and the National Hurricane was talking about, was the merger or the blending of two low-pressure areas. And the one we're watching is out in front of it. And the system behind it is definitely, like they said, possibly going to wrap into this low-pressure area here. You got very well-defined rotation. Check that out. That's why it's a 90% chance of development. Again, here's our storm here. And guys, in the Gulf of Mexico, I just want to point out one thing. Your winds are moving in this direction. But as these upper-level wind shears change, and this is no longer pushing northeast and moves to a more north to northwest, that's going to let the storm sit there and build in strength. The first storm, disturbance number one, that's entered into the Caribbean, this came out about 16 minutes or so ago. But guys, the models, they're not all showing here tabs, TABM, AVNO, and the TABD models. And they're kind of spread out. Some, again, you can see three have it crossing the Yucatan into the Bay of Campeche. And the TAB model has it skirting the tip of the Yucatan and coming up into Louisiana. This is going to change, going to tighten up, especially when we see the Canadian model and the Navy model address this particular storm. Now, disturbance number two is a completely different story. Remember, at 90% chance of development. The Navy model has it moving north of the Windward Islands and then curving back into the Bahamas here. The Canadian model keeps it low, and you get your other models are all in line with bringing into the Gulf. I want to look at some of the animated models also. Now, I've got this pause for August 25th, guys, which you're looking at as of tomorrow, about 6 or 7 days away. Disturbance number 2 is just off the coast of, or the southern tip of Florida. Disturbance number 1 is off the coast of Mexico. Disturbance number 2, the one that has 90% chance of development, is very powerful at this point, very wrapped up in its low pressure. And again, that's a 25th, and so let's just step this forward. 25th, crossing the Florida southern coast. 26th, out into the open Gulf, going to be gaining strength. Watch this. Again, the 26th, it's moving fast now that's into the Gulf. Right here, late into the evening on the 26th, guys. Well, things are going to get very hairy, if you understand what I'm saying, on the coast here. Move it forward, 27th, coming ashore. And right in the area that Katrina hit on the first storm. Let's look at the Navy model. And starting with today's date, on the 18th, here's the difference in the two models again. This is the Navy model. First storm comes in exactly in the area that the Canadian model is showing the second storm come in. On this date, and this one goes forward to August the 26th, you got this storm, disturbance number 1, off the coast of Florida, according to this model. On that day, you've got this storm preparing to come in. So what could happen is something I mentioned in the video last night. I have seen double storms come in. One may be a tropical storm, and then a hurricane come in right behind it, very close to the same location. And what that does is it doesn't really give you a chance to recover as far as flooding, power outages, and things like that. But guys, this is not looking good for the Gulf of Mexico at this time. I want you to be prepared. If you need to bug out, start calling friends now. You've got, you're a little over a week away. And think about moving northward. You can replace a lot of things, but you can't replace your wife or your kids, husbands, fathers, daughters, mothers. You can't replace those lives. So think of that first. And be prepared for power outages. We don't know if one of these will turn into another Katrina or Michael or not yet. It's too early in the game. It is not too early for you to start preparing, guys. Make sure you have, if you're using generators, don't wait to the last minute where there's a rush at the gas line to fill up your car and truck and get a few extra gallons or containers of gasoline. If you're using a generator, don't hesitate to get some extra water. You can always, if you got water, you can make it, guys. And you can always, if you had to, build a dang fire and cook you something. But it's time to be prepared, not just for the hurricane season, guys, but with the banking situation. If you pay attention, especially Zero Hedge, by the way, has a lot of good articles on how fragile the economy is now and how propped up the stock market is and the banking situation, the Federal Reserve, and that could collapse at any time. So don't only prepare for this situation. We're going into some strange times. So prepare for a hell of a lot more than what you see here. But this is going to be critical in the next week or so. It's a heads up. Be safe.